Boris pays a visit. It's a glorious summer's day this July morning, the 3rd of July, and Andrew's brother Mark is celebrating his 4th birthday. Rose is busy making a cake from her Marguerite pattern recipe book. She had already made some Busby biscuits, and they had taken the children to London at a weekend. Mark was fascinated by the guardsmen at Buckingham Palace, who wore very large bearskin hats. Rose had wondered why the biscuits were called Busby biscuits and not bearskin biscuits. No mind, she would ask Ron later. She had to carry on making her son's birthday cake. It was a crown to carry on with the theme. Ron and Rose had treated their sons with a trip to London as it was Andrew's birthday, on the Saturday, the 1st of July. It was a good choice for both boys. They enjoyed the trip despite their age difference. Andrew was very good with Mark. He was a loving, patient brother. They had all enjoyed looking at the crown jewels in the Tower of London. The cake was baking, and Rose wanted to check the ingredients again for decorating the cake. Now it's recipe 741. Here we are, opening her recipe book again. Oh yes, it's the silver balls. Rose had forgotten. She checked her larder. Oh, thank goodness she had some. Meanwhile, in the garden, Mighty Oak was in a reflective mood. He was remembering all the birthdays with the family over the years, all the talks with them. Rose was 10 the last time she spoke to him, and with Andrew it was this very Saturday, his birthday, before going on the family trip to London. Andrew had come out of the garden, bursting out the door with his usual exuberance. However, this time it was a chore for his father. He didn't come to speak to Mighty Oak. This was hard for the mighty tree. He knew it would happen. It happened to all the children as they grew up. It was like as if the children reach a certain age and no longer believe in magic. They get busy with new friends, school, and they have no time for talking to trees and animals. There is but a few grown-ups who never lose that magic in their lives. Mighty Oak, Mighty Oak. It was a ladybird on Mighty Oak's trunk calling to him. I think someone wants your attention, he said, pointing to the cottage. There was Mark waving to him through the open back door. He was sat on the floor whilst Mummy was baking. Mark got to have the bowl when his mummy remembered. He would put the wooden spoon around the bowl and lick it. He liked Mummy making cakes very much. Andrew was at school. Suddenly there was a lot of commotion going on. Animals all speaking with raised voices. A King Charles Spaniel had reached the fence of the Mighty Oak's garden. There's a monkey in the woods, a monkey. Mighty Oak. A monkey. Mighty Oak said, Relax, my friend. What's going on? The Spaniel caught his breath. Sorry, it's just a collared dove asked me to tell you, sir. It's a small monkey's in the woods. The Spaniel turned around. His owner was approaching and he had to be quick. The woods at the back of the park. Right. You're Ben, aren't you? Mighty Oak said calmly to the dog. Yes, sir. Tell me, why didn't the dove come? It would have been quicker. I know, sir, but poor Ben, he couldn't finish his sentence. His owner had caught up with him and put his lead back on and walked away. The mighty tree was feeling exasperated. The noise was getting louder from the woods and was now attracting human attention. He mustered up all his strength and shouted from his very roots. Quiet! Rose nearly dropped the cake she had just brought from the oven. She felt something like a wave go through her body. It was quite tangible. Although she didn't hear the mighty tree, she certainly felt something. Mark just giggled, clapped and laughed. Tree wants quiet, he laughed. Quiet. Yes, dear, said Rose, wondering what Mark was trying to say. In the garden, park and woods, it was silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Then after a collared dove landed on the fence next to Mighty Oak. Are you the dove who sent Ben? Yes, sir. There is a capuchin monkey in the woods, sir. The birds, squirrels are surrounding it, bombarding it with questions. It's very scared, and I didn't want to leave him, so I sent Ben. So that explains all the noise. Yes, sir. Well, go back now everyone's calmed down and kindly ask the monkey to make its way here through the trees in people's gardens. Arthur, if you could please keep him company. Try not to be spotted by any humans. With that, Arthur promptly flew away. There was a few raised voices again. Every now and then the mighty tree would see would see birds fly up only to come down again, and then slowly the tree watched as through the gardens the movement of the trees moved closer towards him, closer and closer through the neighbouring gardens. Then there was Arthur, closely followed by a white-headed capuchin monkey. His main body and back legs were black, and his upper chest, forearms, and fur around his face was white. He had a tanned face and a black cap of fur on his head. The mighty tree knew that this young fellow was a long way from home, for these monkeys lived in trees in forests of South and Central America. "How is this chap here?" "Sir? Oh, sorry, Arthur. Hello, my lad. What's your name?" Arthur gently poked him in the back. Boris, sir," said the monkey nervously. Poor Boris was getting nervous. All the creatures from the woods had followed him and Arthur, and had started to surround him, which made Boris very jittery. They didn't mean to scare him, but after all, it wasn't every day that they saw a monkey. Mighty Oak said, "Friends, give Boris room. Let's hear his story." The animals all backed away from Boris. "Sit down, Boris. You're amongst friends. Tell us your story." "Yes, sir," Boris replied. "I escaped from the zoo last night. It was easier than I thought. I hid in the keeper's bucket and pulled a rag over myself. As Kevin locked the gate, I ran. A flash of remorse came across the monkey's face. He hoped Kevin would not get into too much trouble. He liked him and he was kind." "And," said Arthur impatiently, "oh, yes, sorry. So I leapt into the trees, and I got out that way." "Why did you escape?" asked a blue tip. "Well, I had often heard of you, sir. All the animals would talk about this mighty oak, and I had to meet you, sir." Everyone started asking questions, and it was too much for Boris. He leapt towards the mighty tree's trunk for safety. "Listen, everyone, please. Boris has had quite a journey, met new creatures he's never seen before. Let him rest for the rest of the day. It's Mark's birthday today. We don't want any mishaps. Now, I expect you're hungry, Boris, aren't you?" "Yes, sir." "What do you eat?" asked Arthur. "Oh, anything really," replied Boris. "Fruit, leaves, nectar, nuts, buds, bugs, eggs, frogs, lizards, sometimes shellfish." "Right you are. I will sort out some food for you." "Boris, what was your plan?" asked Mighty Oak. "Well, I'd heard of you, sir, and thought if anyone can help us, it's you. You see, it's lonely at the zoo. It's just the three of us. It's natural for us to live in groups of up to 20. We are very sociable animals. Poor Petra is so depressed her fur has started to fall out because she's so sad." Boris carried on explaining their plight. "The zoo is the first in England to bring in capuchin monkeys. Other zoos concentrate on large cats, bears, elephants." Boris explained he was born in captivity. His earliest memory was of the zoo, whereas his friends, their story is very different. Petra was younger than Boris. She was just 2 years old. She was snatched from her parents. She was born in the wild and stolen by poachers. The other capuchin was an elderly chap. He was very cross, but deep down he was a good sort. He was born in captivity. He joined the zoo 3 years ago. His name is Coco. He is 22, but he looks much older. He was a pet of Frank and Dorothy. An army pal of Frank's had rescued him from a street market. He knew that his old comrade Frank would give him a good home. Frank and Dorothy loved Coco, but sadly years of living on the wrong diet made his teeth in very bad condition. Also, he had problems with stiff joints, so Boris understood why sometimes he could be cantankerous. Despite all that, Boris had a soft spot for his friend. Boris carried on confiding to the mighty tree. He felt safe now and somehow knew that indeed this mighty tree he had heard so much about would actually be able to help. The son of the zoo owner had had an idea to run a monkey program at the zoo. Yes, he agreed with his father that the big cats, elephants, bears were certainly crowd pullers, which they needed, but he wanted to be the first zoo to actually concentrate on primates, starting with capuchins, woolly monkeys, up to chimpanzees and eventually mountain gorillas. Now, Howard knew that this would take years. However, there had been a slight shift in public opinion towards animals, and this and their well-being, and this was an ideal time for him to start this exciting new project. His father had agreed. However, Howard would have to be responsible for all the funding of this project. So Boris was the first at the zoo, donated by another zoo from abroad, followed by Coco, and a few months later Petra joined them. Sadly, Howard's plans were not going as quickly as he'd hoped. There was a lot to consider. He could obtain more monkeys from the black market, which would solve a lot of problems. However, this was not the way he wanted to go, and certainly did not want to put funds to that. He had hoped to start a breeding program and thought that Petra and Boris would be an ideal match. But sadly, Petra was an extremely traumatized, nervous monkey, and Howard knew that this group's morale was very low. If only he could find money to legally acquire perhaps just 2 more, that would be a start. So you see, Mighty Oak, if there's a way we could help Howard to raise more money towards his project, I'm sure things will improve. I'm scared. Coco is right. We should not be in captivity. We should be in our beautiful forests free, but it is not to be. How I see it is if we can help raise money, it means more money can be spent on our well-being, larger enclosures, and for us, a larger group. I know Howard will stick to his word, but the way it's going, his father cannot see his project working and is already talking about shutting Howard's project down before it's begun. Boris looked very worried and sad. Mighty Oak, it looks very bleak for us.